Do you feel that the short movies you make with your drone are a bit too repetitive and not particularly engaging, even when you are in some spectacular location? In this video I will show you how to perform with the Mini 3 Pro 10 moves used by video professionals to make the most of the enormous capabilities offered by drones for aerial videography. In most cases we will use some of the excellent tools offered by the Mini 3, while in other occasions we will perform them manually. In many cases a movie starts with a push-in view into a scene in order to establish the location, to let the viewer feel the place. It can be a simple move forward, or can be combined with a change of elevation, or a more complex move panning while advancing and raising in elevation. We can also start with the camera pointing down and then gradually tilt up while advancing, thus revealing new elements in the scene. In this case, be aware of the increased luminosity when the sky will be included in the image. At the end of a movie, we often see a pull-out move to reveal the surroundings and give a sense of departing. These moves are simple to execute manually, but for the pull-out we can use the quick shot drone. As the aircraft will fly backwards and upward at the desired distance, keeping the target in the middle of the frame. In other cases we want to reveal the width of a natural scene by sliding horizontally. There is nothing more boring than a simple panning move. It is something to avoid at all costs. We can make things much more interesting by adding several moves. In this case, to reveal the width of this red fjord in Iceland, I'm pulling back with the drone while panning, and the result is much more engaging. Here I am advancing while rising in altitude and very slowly turning to the right to follow the river. In this one, sliding while descending. Whenever possible, it is very useful to use an element in the foreground to reveal the main subject in the background, adding some parallax, which is always engaging, as we will see later on in this video. It is also very effective to use geometrical lines to lead the eyes of the viewer. Another way to establish a location is to slowly reveal a scene by ascending. This move is especially engaging when it reveals an unexpected element that was hidden by other objects in the foreground. This way we can surprise the viewer, which is always an excellent way to maintain interest. If the element in the foreground contains strong geometric shape, the effect is even more engaging. In this case we are showing a scene while moving backwards. And then, suddenly and unexpectedly, the main subject enters the scene. The eyes of the viewer are drawn from the previous scene to the new element. Anytime we can create some surprise, the attention will be increased. It works even better if we fly quite close to the surprising subject. But obviously without taking too many risks. This move mimics the shots obtained in cinema or TV by having the camera mounted on a crane. But with a drone we can obviously make a similar move on a much bigger scale. The idea is to maintain the camera locked on the subject while advancing and rising in altitude. Or we can do a reverse crane, moving backwards while descending. In this case, we can often reveal an interesting background. It is not an easy movement to perform manually, so it is better to use the intelligent flight mode spotlight to keep the camera locked on the subject. With drones, most users at first start by flying as high as possible, but there are plenty of interesting and unexpected angles when flying close to the ground. We can replicate moves that in the old days were achieved with the use of very expensive dollies and sliders. But with drones we can move in all directions, at any speed, over any sort of terrain, even water. It would be fantastic to be able to use drones this way in urban environments, but unfortunately it is not always possible, so we have to resort to use handheld gimbals. Often the most pleasing movements are the ones involving parallax. The idea is to find scenes with several interesting elements on different planes at different distances. By orbiting around the closest element, we will slowly reveal the ones in the background, which will move at a faster speed compared to the one closer to the camera. Rotating around the target manually is not easy. Luckily, the Mini 3, like several other DJI models, has the excellent point of interest intelligent flight mode. The aircraft rotates around the chosen target and we are free to use the two sticks of the controller to get closer or farther away and to modify the elevation. We can even zoom in or out smoothly using the right wheel of the controller. In the scene I am applying all these moves while using point of interest to show these villages on the east coast of Sicily in a very dynamic way. You will find a link to my video about point of interest at the end of this one and in the description below. My favorite intelligent flight mode is Spotlight. It allows to keep a target on the same position in the frame while flying in any direction. Practically it disconnects the camera from the direction of flight. A typical way to use Spotlight is course lock, which consists in flying parallel or in a diagonal line with the camera locked on the target, revealing the background with an interesting parallax effect. The two sticks of the controller can be used for all sorts of variation. It is also possible to apply a progressive zoom in or zoom out with the right wheel. Spotlight is also an excellent way for tracking a moving target in a very dynamic fashion. I will post a link to my video about Spotlight at the end of this one and in the description below. Bird's eye views can only be shot with drones, and they often give a totally different point of view of familiar scenes. This is a very famous tiny island just off the east coast of Sicily. Everybody knows it. But when I show this top-down shot, none of my friends could guess what it is. This shot of a volcanic fumarole in Iceland looks like an abstract painting by Klimt. This vineyard could be mistaken for a cashmere blanket. In many cases, top-down shots are quite spectacular. It is possible to add interest to top-down shot by rotating the camera with the left stick for the famous Hollywood corkscrew move. We can add a twist to the plot, excuse the pun, by rotating while ascending or descending. In this one, I combine a top-down shot with a corkscrew and the crane effect. Click on this link to watch my videos about the two intelligent flight modes I've used throughout this video, Point of Interest and Spotlight. And don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video interesting. Thank you.